It's the day before, in week 0, that many of the previews start happening, and I'm standing by what I call the 5-foot tall posters, and they run all the way along the road, and they would have been purchased probably months ago by PRs PRing these shows. And for me, these are the posters of the Fringe, the Edinburgh Fringe as a brand. And Edinburgh Fringe as a brand, it's been around for a while. It was a name once that meant Fringe literally. Now it just is the name of a very large commercial festival, and these posters, already adding nights, the PR machines behind this can sell out the shows very quickly. This is stuff that will just be playing around the country regularly. Won't go to small fringes in a lot of cases, in some it will play big comedy festivals. A lot of these people are playing to build audiences for their social media and the revenue that goes with it, and also for the gigs that they'll get resulting from being up here, and maybe some TV work and so on. And they'll be on Have I Got News For You. There'll be some other big shows, and the size of the poster reflects it. You probably see over here we've got some smaller size posters. Now the smaller size posters is where the Fringe begins, and I guess it's still part of this festival, so it's still this brand, a bit like Kellogg's cornflakes. Branding is a big part of marketing, and it's the brand of the Edinburgh Fringe. But a lot of those shows will have much smaller budgets. There'll be people trying stuff out on the edges of what's possible for them. Some of them will be successful, some won't, and that is where for me Fringe begins. Maybe it's with a small f too, and it means the spirit of Fringe, the things that sit on the sidelines, on the edges of the mainstream. These are half-size posters, you get a bit of both here. Many of these shows are back for the 10th time. To an extent they are dining on the success they can get here at the Fringe. And when I'm grumpy, I think they're taking audience away from the true spirit of the Fringe, and I get a bit kind of idealistic and romantic about it. A lot of these posters have just got hundreds of stars gleaned over the years, and they're just stuck up here. Some of them aren't even that interested in a review, other than it sort of freshens it for the audience. Here are some more here. These are smaller ones, and some people can't afford these posters at all, and they'll be on social media right now trying to get audience for their shows, and right down to tiny business card size flyers, and some people can't even afford that. But what we've got here is, they used to be called the Big Four, and the big venues definitely have in their vision statements a wish to still be Fringe with a small f. But the backbone of that, still, perhaps to make it possible, is the amount of food and drink they're going to sell, because they're commercial enterprises and they make no bones about that. But most would still have a rhetoric that says they're still part of the spirit of the Fringe. For me, and I guess writing for FringeReview, we're looking for posters that don't always have stars all over them. We're trying to find that new writing, that new work, something that is edgy. I like the word because it's on the edge of a mainstream quite often. It can be a bit dangerous on the edge of something. And so here on the day before the previews start, I'm always a little bit conflicted. There's something grand about the scale of this Fringe on a grand scale. But grand can also mean like the Grand Hotel. It can mean unaffordable, it can mean luxury, and it can mean that quite a lot of people can't simply afford to come here. And I still believe it's part of the origin story that there's the origin of love. The origin story of the Fringe should still be alive, because I think mainstreams that often become collusions need fringes to poke a stick at them. And when they grow, they need fringes on fringes. And so I feel a bit sad seeing this kind of Darwin fest of who can afford, because they have budgets, the big shows, back again and again and again with the same shows, with a product, with marketing. And it's a battle for audience that smaller shows can't always even have a hope to win, because their posters, social media campaigns and so on simply aren't big enough. In the end, everybody wants a showstopper, but not everybody has the budget for I think that's an 8-foot by 4-foot poster. The battle for prominence, the battle for attention. But my feeling is this isn't Fringe in the spirit that brings me up here. And these are greatly talented people. But this thing now is 3,300 shows, and the vast number of people don't get audiences, not because their work isn't good enough. In fact, some of it is the edgiest that you can find, but they simply won't have access. They won't have the loud voice to shout and scream about their shows. And you can see how loud some of these are, and these posters are absolutely everywhere. So part of me wishes everybody well, and I don't want to leave this in a place of despair, because I also want to remind you that sometimes big becomes a cacophony. It's too loud and we zone out of it, and we like to focus on smaller things and a real conversation. And I don't know how many of these people, maybe some will, some won't, are going to be out on the streets having conversations, and how many others are just going to show up in their Uber or from their bar straight onto stage. Some people come back year after year. It can be really interesting and fun work, but I like to feel that coming up literally from the grassroots are the real Fringe spirit shows, and I just hope they manage to get audience too. We'll certainly be out there looking for that new work. We'll be looking for the voices that need to be heard and aren't heard because they don't have a big megaphone to scream across the city. So good Fringe to everybody, but spare a thought for the people that can't afford these posters, and maybe look out for the real Fringe spirit. Fringe with a small f, and not the brand that is a capital F.